like to start right on time because I want to value your time and I want to value my time. Um, so a couple things. One, I have a vocal cord issue, which is not good when you're a speaker for a living, but I have a vocal cord issue. So if you hear my voice sounding like crap today, it's because of the vocal cord issue. So here's what we're doing today. Here's what I want to do, and here's what I'm not doing. So my only goal today, I'm not teaching you the buyer brokerage agreement. There's so much training out there on that. If you haven't been doing that, you need to be doing that. I'm not teaching you how to write a contract. I'm not teaching you how to write an offer or how to present this as a buyer or present this as a seller. I'm not teaching that today. I might do that again, but right now, what I'm finding is most of the people that I've been talking to are not understanding how to create the value they need for themselves. And so I'm going to take you through a presentation that I would be doing and my thoughts on why you should be doing this. And again, I'm going to send the recording to all of this to everybody. But if you want to share this with anybody, share with anybody. I don't care. I'm just doing this because, as any of you guys that know me, I just really am always trying to create value and help. And let me see if I can how to make this. It's only one page. Nope, that didn't do it. Oops. I don't know what I just did there. Give me 1 second. I don't know how to make this one page. Call them page layout. Nope. All right. Well, it's going to show up like this because I don't know how to fix it because I'm not a tech guy, but it's not really about what's on the screen here. I'm just doing that for me so I can read it to you. If you have any questions as we're talking, put them in. I think I can see, yeah, put them in the chat box. But I'm going to get through this and then I'll answer any questions to the best I can. And again, I'm not an expert at all this yet, but what I am good is I'm good at sales and I'm good at presentations and how to talk to people. And there's certain things that when I look at what's going on in this with this change right now, which by the way I don't think is a bad thing. I know there's a lot of people out there freaking out. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I really want to make sure that you understand that if you do not provide value, somebody else will, and they're going to get your business. You got a question already? Oh, it's a AI person. All those little bots that come on and ask you questions I don't really know about. So, anyways, so this is really just my opinion on how I would do this. If you like it, great. If you want to use some sort of form of this, great. I will send out when I send out the list of every else this doc that I'm reading from. I will have attached so you can use it as a template to build your own. I would personally do this in a PowerPoint presentation with your customer. I would never, ever, ever, ever again show a person a house without a buyer consultation. I think it's going to be the way we do business. And by the way, there's lots of places that do this. There are already 18 states in the country that already do buyer presentations, right? Buyer brokerage agreements. So just keep that in mind as we're moving forward. And again, I'm not an expert in this whole thing. It's confusing as heck to me, just like it is to you. And I'm learning some stuff. I thought I had it down, and then yesterday I heard things that made it change a little more. So let's talk about just a few things about positioning and how you should be talking to the customer. And I'm going to talk, when I'm doing this, I'm going to talk like I'm talking to you as a customer. And I'm going to throw a couple things in there in the middle of while we're doing that. Okay. So first things first. So a lot of you might know I'm known as the godfather of internet lead conversion. One of the reasons why we're so good at lead conversion is the way we talk to our potential customers. And we always position all of our agents as a team, regardless if they could have been a brand new agent and it would have been, hey, this is Julie, well, not Julie, but hey, this is Julie with the Patricia Bertrand real estate team. Now, Pat could have been a brand new agent for me at that moment, but in the perception, which is what this is all about, the perception that she was a team. So from now on, I want you to stop positioning yourself as a team. So what does that mean? I want you to say that I'm the Angel Beck real estate team. I'm the Angelique Tatum real estate team. I'm just picking out names. I'm the Shelby Jelinek real estate team. Everything you do should be, that's who you are. Now you are a team. And if you don't know you're a team, you are. You have a lender, you have a title person, you have a lawyer, depending on the state you're in, you have inspectors, you have insurance people, you have agents that you collaborate with. That's a team, right? So you don't have to have a formal, real team to be perceived as a team. And so, anyways, I had a note that somebody's having problems with sound or volume. I'm up full volume, so hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Is anybody else having an issue with volume? Please put it in the chat. Okay. Sometimes it's just other people. All right. So the other thing that's really one of my big pet peeves in our business, as I use the word business, is a lot of you will say, "This is how I do my job." That's the wrong words. The right word is, "This is how I run my business." And it's really important you do that because this isn't a job. This is a business. And when you say you're running a job, it uses it gives a whole different value of who you are. Right. So I am Mitch with the Mitch Evak Real Estate Team. Let me explain to you how I run my business. And then we're going to go over, which I'm going to do right now, go over the step-by-step buying process. And I always say that confidence is key. Confidence is key to all of this, regardless of what you say. If you don't have confidence, I'll give you an example of that. When I started doing open houses when I was, first got in the business, and I didn't know anything about real estate. I literally did my first open houses 5 days after I started, sold my first house that day. But when I was driving to that open house, I said, all right, well, I know nothing about real estate. I'm just going to pretend like I'm a realtor and I'm just going to have fun. And I did. And by the way, all this stuff is about having fun, right? So the more fun you can have, the more you're going to be able to get, you're going to be able to get these people to buy into you. All right, so let's get right into it. So here's my script. So I'm talking to a buyer now. So as you may or may not know, there are new rules for realtors helping buyers buy homes now. This is not just my brokerage requirement. This affects every realtor in every state, every buyer in the U.S. So regardless of who you decide to work with, you are going to have to sign what we call a buyer brokerage agreement. Firstly, understand, I don't get paid a dime until you've achieved success. And what does that mean? You get keys to your new home into your hands. Once that happens, that's when I get paid. But before we get started, I want to take you through the buyer process so you can really understand what you can expect from myself and my team. And again, I'm sorry about my voice. I'm doing the best I can here with this. So first, I'm going to work with your lender to make sure we get you pre-approved. Have you talked to a lender yet? And by the way, this is after or before you go through their needs analysis of what they're looking for. And that's up to you. I personally would do this first and have them sign and then go through the needs analysis because I want to make sure I'm working with them before I do that. But then we're going to go through your needs and wants analysis. We need to know what you really want. I need to know what do you really want for a home and what do you need to have? What are those important things? And then I'm going to scour the MLS and all other sources to find homes that are not only on the market, but I'm also going to look for off-market properties. Some of you have access. We have access to off-market properties through our EXP, so we'll do that. Some of you don't have that, but if you have that, use that because that's another value proposition. Once we find a bunch of properties, and I know you're going to send me properties because you're going to be online looking too, and that's great. And I'm going to analyze those properties to make sure they're really the right properties that you want to see. Right? Because what will happen is a lot of things look great online, but I know the properties, and I'll know whether they fit what you're really looking for, those needs that you really need. Then we're going to tour homes, and until you find the perfect home. And I'm never going to pressure you to make an offer. And I want to stop right here for a second, and I'm going to throw commentary in the whole time. So people, one of the fears from buyer agents is that people are going to start going to the listing agents. So I want you to explain to people when you talk to people who are looking at saying, well, why don't I just go to the listing agent? So here's why you don't go to the listing agent, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer. If you go to a listing agent directly, they have one goal in mind, and it's not you. Their goal is to sell that house to you because they know they have one shot of selling you that house. I'm a buyer's agent. What I do is I find you the best house for you. I'm not trying to sell you anything. My goal is to help you get to where you need to go. It's very simple. And I've turned so many people who called me over the years who said they were only calling sellers directly or listing agents directly into my buyer customers. Because once they understand that they're not going to get help on that side and they're going to try to sold on that house, it's a much easier messaging. So yeah, we're going to tour homes. We're going to continue to tour homes until we find the home. If it's 5 homes, it's 5 homes. If it's 100 homes, it's 100 homes. Until we find that home, we're going to find that home. And once we find your potential new home, we'll go through all the comps. We'll determine the price to offer. There's a lot to be done to find the best price for you. I'm really, really good at it. There's so many factors that go into comps. It's not just what's sold, but how many days have been on the market, who's the listing realtor. If I know the listing realtor, I know how much more I can negotiate. Are they a newer agent? Are they not newer? There's many things that I go through in that process to find you, get you the best deal. And again, I'm really, really good at it. What my best attribute is negotiating and finding you the best deal. Once we determine a price, we're going to then prepare the offer. Again, I'm not going into that offer today. At the same time, we're going to work with your lender to ensure we have an up-to-date pre-approval letter. Sellers will not accept offers without proof of funds or pre-approval letter. And again, I'm going to get this from day one. But if we're a month or 2 months into the buying process, we need to get a pre-approval letter. Another note on this, and most buyer agents are pretty good at this, but if you're making an offer, make sure your pre-approval letter is not higher than the offer price, because then the seller knows you're negotiating, giving all your cards away on the table. Okay, within the offer, we're going to be asking the seller for concessions. We're going to ask for the seller concessions to pay for my professional fees and possibly pay for some of your closing costs. Okay, we always try to get the seller to pay our professional fees. By the way, you notice I don't use commissions, I use professional fees. In almost all cases, sellers are already offering to pay our professional fees. That really hasn't changed with the new real estate changes. It's just now that we have to negotiate that as part of the offer. Negotiations will go back and forth several times until we find an agreeable price. By the way, one of the things I'm doing here, if you're really, really good at real estate, your customers don't know that you do all this stuff, right? They don't really get that you do all this stuff. They think we go out, we get a couple of properties. They send us properties. We go look at properties. We're ready to offer, and we make $10,000-$20,000. We all know that's not true. There's so much involved. I'm trying to explain them and showing my value on what we actually have to do here. Okay. So negotiations can go back and forth several times to find an agreeable price between you and the seller. At that point, we'll get all the paperwork signed and we're ready to move forward. And this is where the hard part comes. This is where it really comes in. So what we've talked about so far is actually the easiest part of the transaction. So the seller generally is going to select and pay for the title work. So we'll need to wire your escrow deposit within 3 days to the title company, or whatever terms are on the title company. Excuse me, I'll take a sip. Once the contract is signed, we're going to order inspections. And during the general inspection, we might find we need more inspections that specialize in different things. For instance, we might need to get a roof inspector out there. We might need to get an electrician out there. We might need to get an AC guy out there. We may need to get a pool guy out there. There's multiple things that can go on. We might need to get a mold guy out there. There's so many things that can go into the inspection that we might need to have specialty people come out, which is part of my team that we put together to make sure you have the best buying experience. And so you don't have to do this yourself, because we have all the contacts to the right people. There's no reason in making mistakes costing you thousands and thousands of dollars in those mistakes. Next, we'll be ordering a survey to make sure there's no encumbrances on the property, such as fences and things like that. We do see things like that. Sometimes pools are built over the line. Sometimes fences are over the line. We need to know all this stuff. During this time, I'm going to be continuing to work with your lender on a regular basis and your title company to make sure we have a smooth process. Once we get the title work back from the title company, I'm going to be analyzing that to make sure you don't have any issues in the future. Clean title is so important, and we need to make sure that. So I read every title policy I get from front to back to make sure it's done correctly. As we get closer to closing, I'll be working with the other realtor to make sure the seller's completed any repairs we've asked for. And by the way, after the repair process, which I didn't put this in there, we may have to renegotiate the deal. And we may be going back and forth on that multiple times. We may need to renegotiate repairs. So all those things are part of the process prior to closing. So as we get closer to closing, I'll be working with the other realtor to ensure the seller's completed all the repairs. He's moving out on time or she's moving out on time, and they'll be ready to close on your closing date. Because you see, a lot of times that doesn't happen, right? And at this point, we should have all your contingencies satisfied and move toward closing. Day before closing, you and I are going to go do a walkthrough. And this is to make sure the house is in the condition it was when we originally made an offer. We want to make sure that those shrubs that were there are there. We want to make sure that the curtains that you liked are still there. We want to make sure the lighting fixtures are still there, because for many times we've seen these things disappear and the seller's taken them. And if we have to hold up the closing to do that, we will. Also, the day before, possibly a couple days before, we'll be getting with the final numbers from the title company, and we're going to go through them. I'm going to go through them line by line to make sure that you're going to be overcharged for anything by anyone. We want to make sure that all the things that we discussed from day one with the lender and all that stuff, and the title company, those fees have stayed the change, and no one's pulled a fast one. Do people do that? Yeah, generally we see things change. Not a lot, by the way. Most people are honest and integrity and great people, but I've seen extra $100 here and extra $150 here, and we go in and we have to challenge that. Once the title company's received your wire transfer, either from yourself or your lender, you'll get the keys and congrats, now you own your home. So as you can see, there's a lot that goes um, into the home buying process. And I didn't even mention all the stuff here. I could have done another 10 or 20 or 50 things. But the reality is I don't want to overwhelm you with how of the process because it's a pretty intense process. Good realtors, great realtors like myself, we've learned to master these processes to make your buying process as simple and painless as possible. So as I mentioned before we started talking, we need to sign a buyer brokerage agreement. Uh, and again, what I'm going to talk about now is how I recommend doing this. You do whatever you want. This is your business to run, not mine. My team works as a single agent team. So what does that mean? That means, like a lawyer, we represent you. We have a fiduciary responsibility for you. Now, most realtors, I'm going to talk about Florida, most realtors in Florida act as what's called transaction brokers. They work for the transaction and do not represent the customer. So I've used this many times over the years. Remember, many states that are feeder states of Florida are lawyer states. Well, you might be in a lawyer state and you're already doing that. But I can only talk in Florida because that's what I know. I'd like to legally represent you because it's a stronger position when we negotiate. With that said, if we decide to look at any of my EXP listings, this form allows me to also transition to a transaction broker for that property per the state law of Florida. My professional fee is whatever that fee is, right? And again, that's a negotiation between you and the buyer. I would always go for the higher number because you can always come down. Remember, you can't go above what you say. So if you say it's 2.5%, 2%, 1%, you can't. If the seller's willing to pay 3%, you can't do that. So I would put. Again, I can't discuss commissions. You put whatever you want, but I would do the highest there. As I mentioned earlier, our goal is to have the seller pay this fee or most of it during our negotiation. Remember, almost all sellers will pay my professional fee through the concessions. My guarantee is if you're not 100% satisfied working with my work, fire me. And if you fire me prior to finding your home, I don't get paid. You don't owe me anything. And by the way, I've never been fired. So my team's excited to work with you in finding your perfect home. Do you have any questions? And so that's all I have on this. So what I want to do now is really open this up to you. And again, this is how I would present it. You can present this any way you want. And I know I talked a little fast. I'm trying to get everybody out here in 30 minutes. And honestly, my voice isn't going to last a lot longer. But the reality, the whole point of this, right, is value. Right? I want to show them this is a crap load of work to make your sale, right? Uh, will I be sharing? Yes, Randall, I'm going to be sending this to all of you guys. So you'll have the script. You can manipulate you want. I would put this into a PowerPoint presentation personally. Excuse me, one more second, sorry. But I can't tell you enough how important I think it is for you to be doing a buyer presentation, buyer consultation on every single person that you talk to. Now, I know we have these single property things. That's, you have to figure it out. Again, depending on the price point, depending on the customer, I would probably go do a single price point. There are the single showing buyer broker forms you can use. Um, there's several ways of presenting this. The way I learned to present this, and by the way, I never used it. That's why I'm learning this stuff too. But the way I learned this was to give a cancellation agreement with them at the same time. So it's really simple. But my thing is, I don't want to work with people that aren't working with me, right? They don't like it. They want to fire me, then fire me, right? Like I said, there's plenty of people that were doing these all this time. You might want to reach out to people that are doing that. The buyer brokerage agreement itself is pretty basic. Now, again, I don't know how many people with EXP are not here, so I don't want to talk about EXP stuff. I do know that the EXP forms We're the only ones so far to date that I've heard from the DOJ that were going to be approved. And they're very, very simple. Keep in mind that when you're doing this stuff, you're going to have to divide your commission 2, 3, 4, 5% to the seller, and also do the same thing to the buyer 2, 3, 4, 5% to the buyer. Remember, you can also modify. You can also write in the buyer appointment if there's so many things you can do in this thing that you can do. For instance, you can write, if I show you between 1 and 10 homes, it's this commission. If I show you 11 to this, it's this commission. You can say, if I work for you for this amount of months, it's this commission, or this amount of months, it's this commission, or compensation, however you want to call it. You can set this up any way you want. And again, talk to your broker, because your broker has their own way of doing what they want, right? Hold on, so I'm going to read the question. I know you said you're not going over forms, but if I have a buyer's agreement signed for 3% and the seller is only giving us 2.5%, what form do I need? Well, depending again on your broker, you can do a modification of your buyer agreement down to 2.5%. Keep in mind, how many times have you been in a deal, right, where you have, it's 3%. I'm just making up numbers because we can't talk commissions. 3% on each side, right? And you and the selling agent say, look, or you and the buyer say, look, let's get this done. We each got to kick in 0.5 point. And we do it all the time. Now, some brokerages require you to put that in writing, and some wouldn't. But if you're in an offer and they're only offering, if that's the number, that's the number, right? Or you can charge your buyer 0.5 point. That's up to you. Now, me personally, I would not be doing that. One of the conversations I would be having with the customer, but you got to be careful how you say this, is I'm not going to let you, and this is the way I work because I'm just who I am as a person. I am never going to let a deal fall apart because of a little bit of money. That doesn't mean I'm going to work for free, but it's just not going to happen, right? So I would not hesitate in my business to drop 0.5 point, 1/4 point to make the deal work for those people. That's it. What other questions? Any other questions you have on presenting this? The key is sitting down face to face doing it. Now, sometimes you can't do face to face. Do it over Zoom, right? Do not, again, my appointment. Do not send it out to as a packet and say, here, you look at this stuff and sign the paperwork. They're not signing it, right? Set yourself apart. Now, I will tell you, I have 4,000 realtors on my Facebook page, and we had 100 sign up for this today. There's most people are not going to do this correctly. And by the way, I've had a question about EXP. So the EXP buyer brokerage form is non-exclusive. Now, keep in mind whether it's exclusive or not. If it's a buyer, this is important to understand. If they stop using you and they signed another buyer brokerage agreement, regardless of which one form you're using, they go that null and voids. I'm sorry, that null and voids the original buyer brokerage agreement, cancels it out. Just so you understand. So if I'm using it exclusive or non-exclusive, to me it doesn't really matter, because they sign a brokerage one with somebody else. Mine's not null and void anyways. Alyssa writes, if I'm a listing agent, do I need each buyer that contacts me directly to sign a buyer's brokerage agreement as well? Yes. Yes, if you are going to show your listing, then they need to sign a buyer brokerage agreement as well. And again, and I'll just say just real quick because I know a lot of EXP agents on here. EXP doesn't care which forms you use. Use the EXP forms, use the Florida Realtors forms, it doesn't matter. Is there consensus on how the general public understands this? They have no clue. They have no clue. I've talked to so many consumers over the last 60 days, 90 days that don't have any understanding of this. And by the way, when you're talking to your seller, it's going to be just how you present it. So when I'm talking to a seller and they're going to ask me, well, do I have to pay a buyer's commission? If you want to sell your house quicker, yes. If you want access to more people. Now, the reality is, according to the rules, we can't not show property if there's no compensation. But let's be real. Nobody works for free. The other thing is, you're going to ask your buyer, and again, these are my opinions. I know I've said that many times, but I want to be honest. This is my opinion. I'm going to ask my buyer If the seller is not contributing toward your my professional fee, do you want to look at those homes? Now, with that said, we could still make an offer, but you may not want to accept that offer or that counter offer if they're not paying my professional fee because you will be liable for it. Transparency. This is all about transparency, guys. Um, let's see. How about offering them a bonus credit towards the commission if they reform our clients do? I I don't get into that stuff. I don't do that stuff. Um, that's gray area stuff. Bonus credits for referrals is basically against the rules. Um, Now, it doesn't mean you can't credit the buyer or part of your commission if your broker lets you do that. That's again, that's writing an offer, and I really don't want to get into writing offers today because that's going to go down a whole other spiral. I might try to do another webinar the next week or two. We can talk about that. Another question is, so if someone signed an agreement with another agent a long time ago with an extended expiration date, they simply don't remember doing it. The new buyer agreement with you overrides the old one. That is my understanding. Now, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of misunderstanding out there because there's so many people saying things. But my understanding, what I was told the other day from a broker, was that if they sign another one, it null and voids. I know it says it on somewhere on one of the forms. It says that. Do you feel as a listing agent that you would only communicate the seller's open to compensation to the buyer's agent, but not disclose the amount? 100% yes. So what does that mean? If I'm the listing agent, you call me and say, are they offering compensation? How much are they offering? I would not tell you that. And here's the reason why. And by the way, I went back and forth on this for a while, and I'm going to tell you why I would not say that. I would not say that because now I work for my seller now, right? Unless they're with me and I'm a transaction broker, I'm going in as a single agent. Which again, you don't have to do that, but that's how I do my business. And so if I tell the buyer agent they'll pay 3%, they're going to do a modification and come in at 3%. Right? But what if they only sign a 2% listing agreement? What if it's going to be one of those discount buyer agents out there, which it's going to be, right? You're going to have discount buyer agents. They're going to do business for 1%. No different than we have discount listing agents, right? So if they did that and I don't tell them, they're only getting 1%. I just made my seller 2% more. So I would not, and again, I went back and forth like, no, that's not right. That's not right. And then the more I thought about it, what's my fiduciary responsibility as a single agent? It's my seller, right? So I love that question, Linda, because there's a lot of controversy going back. And by the way, I've seen some really creative ways to share commissions. I saw one the other day I loved. It was at the end of the price. So the house is $300,000.03. $300,003 interest rate. Um, yes, we can advertise the envelope. We can, yes, and you're right. Alyssa wrote, according to the thing, we can share anywhere we want the compensation to the buyer agent. I personally think, after learning and doing the research I've been doing, that that's a disservice to your seller. Not telling you not to do that. It's your call. This is your business. I'm just telling you my thoughts and how I would do it. So what do you say when this asked about sellers paying commission? I say, yes, they're willing to pay commission. Write it into your offer what you want. Right? Yes, that's the sign writers offering commission. But you can also write buyer agents. I mean, there's ways of doing this without violating the rules, but be a seller, right? It's up to the buyer's agent now to negotiate. Now, with that said, I can see agent comes in and says, look, I want 5% because my buyer said I could get 5% down to a lower number. But if your house has been on the market for 9 months and you need to sell your house, you have to sell your house now, and this is the only offer you got, and I'm asking for 5%, now you're going to go to your selling agent. I'm theoretical, of course, and say, hey, I got to pay him 5%. I'm not paying you 3% anymore. I got to make up these numbers. So there's going to be some interesting twists that we see along the way, and we don't really know. So the question is, so if the buyers are only wanting to buy houses that sellers are paying full commission, then how would the buyer's agent know if this is going to work? Sorry, it's a bit confusing. It is a bit confusing. So all you guys say when you're in the middle of the offer, if the seller is not willing to pay that, you go to your buyer. Do you still want this house? Or as a buyer agent, you can lower your commission to whatever the seller is offering. Your call. These are conversations you have with your buyer. I think I have another. Okay, I saw that. What else? What other questions? This is all making sense. I know this is confusing, and I'm going to keep doing. If you're local in Brevard, I'm doing these every Monday and Wednesday. Mondays in Merritt Island and Wednesdays live in Suntree. Um, I'm going to do another one in the next week or so on sellers on listing agreements. I'm trying to get as much out there, but keep in mind, I'm not the broker of EXP. I'm not a broker of anybody anymore. I'm just watching a lot of confusion, and I know the biggest thing from a buyer perspective is you're going to have to show value. That's why I really wanted to come on today and talk about what does this look like when you meet a buyer now. No longer would I just meet a buyer at a house. I wouldn't do it. And we're all in the same boat. That's the beauty of this, by the way. No matter who they go to, they're going to have this conversation. So let me ask you a question. If you're a consumer, we're all consumers, and you're going to go buy a house, and you meet with this guy and says, "Yeah, we got to sign this buyer brokerage agreement. So here it is. I charge 3%. You go ahead and sign." Or you have someone that just spent the time, 15 minutes, a half hour to go through this and go through all this. Who are you going to work with? Probably the one that showed a lot more value, that has a team, that went through it, explained this step by step, right? All right, other questions. Does this basically eliminate procuring costs? From what I understand, it eliminates procuring costs. Yes. So things are changing. Um, Shelby, do you have preferred verbiage when writing in your buyer compensation into your offer? Um, I've seen so many ways right now. I'm not 100% sure which is the best way. That's why I'm still learning some of the stuff. I'm trying to get some other stuff on this. Um, the so I would refer to your broker on that. I'm not 100% sure on that, Shelby. On one thing, I've seen you can write in the seller agrees to pay X percentage towards the buyer's buyer agent obligation. I've seen that. I've seen you can write in buyer agrees to pay X percent concessions, um, and then have that go toward it. So there's multiple ways that I've seen this. Next question. Yes, yeah, and that is true, by the way, Jennifer. Great comment there. So no longer do listing agents determine your pay. That's a good thing. How many times have you got upset when you went to the closing deal and the listing agent got 5%, you got 1, or 4% and 2, right? Can still be the case now, but you have that right now to negotiate. Alyssa, in an open house situation, can we provide a tour without requiring a signed agreement? Yes, open houses do not count. Rentals do not count. Commercial real estate does not count. But open houses, you do not need to do that. Now, if you pick up a buyer from that, you need to get it signed. But no, that was a big question I came up right at the beginning. We teach open houses to everybody because that is the best lead generation tool out there. Um, Dual agency is going to explain. So honestly, I have a funny feeling because remember the DOJ hasn't even said anything yet, right? They haven't done anything yet. So we don't know what they're really going to come with. I would not be surprised, and this is me speculating, by the way, and I think it would be a good thing that they eliminate dual agency altogether. The reason why buyer agency came up in 1995, I believe was the year, was because if you were around before, it was buyer beware. Agents were called sub agents, right? And you still got paid, but it was buyer beware. If you went to the seller, you were not represented. In fact, some of the listing I've seen two different listing things now say non-representation. So if you bring a buyer goes directly to the seller now, at least where we are, based on one of the forms I saw, you are not representing them, right? And you're adding an additional fee to the seller to take care of that buyer. Do you know if we need to modify our current active listing agreements? Yes, I believe there is a modification form that you have to have every seller sign. And again, I don't know if that's statewide or broker wide. I know we do. Let's see. Linda says, I was given this language to the seller card to sell it to credit buyer X dollar for the close of escrow in order to satisfy the buyer's contractual obligations to the buyer's brokerage. Yes, that's the one I read too, Linda, and I like that. So I would copy that. I'm going to leave that there for a second. I would copy and paste that, everybody, because I think that is the verbiage that I've seen that's best. Uh, they want yes, and they want to decouple the yes. They don't want the sellers to be involved with the buyers. Um, and by the way, I think that would be in the best interest of the customer. Now, do we double end a lot of deals? Of course we do. But is that the best interest of the customer? Not all the time. All right. I've got time. So if anybody has any more questions, I did try to cap this at 30 minutes because I want to value your time. I'm going to send out, and I know I talk fast, but my voice is fading quick. I'm going to, all right, I talk fast anyways, you know that. I'm going to send out the recording of this so you can watch it again. And I'm going to send out the script. And if you have questions, reach out to me. My email, I'll give you my email. It's probably the easiest way, is mitch@mitchrealty.com. Feel free to reach me. Reach out to me. I'm glad to help you out. Richard, that script's going to be sent by email to you guys. I don't, there's no way to download. I'm just going to send it to you guys. Everybody who registered on this webinar is getting it. And feel free to share it with people. I don't care. Don't give me your email addresses because I'm not going to send it to you. If you're already on this, I already have your email address. I don't want to be doing that. My virtual assistants will take care of this stuff for me. Anyways, I hope this helped. And again, if I can help you in any ways, please reach out. That's what I do all day long. I'm just here to help. You guys all have a great day and have a wicked awesome day. Bye. We'll get through this. This is just a thing. It's not a big deal. We'll get through this. Okay. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.